Okay. All right, so today's session is going to be the last question and answer session for everybody. So if you have any questions, come up to, I guess, 7th floor in the large boardroom. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to walk through like each project. If there is an issue, kind of like how to do certain things, we're just going to cover that. So by your question is basically how do you tie all those floor levels together, correct? Okay. So hopefully I can open up this model. I think, Daniel, you had the question earlier about the RCP thing, right? The railing?
Yeah, I figured out how to do it, but you can't show a railing in a request to see the plan at all.
Yeah.
So I took another floor plan with just the ducts in it and overlay that on the sheet.
That's probably the easiest, right?
It works. It's clean.
Yeah. I think what tends to happen is that, that's something I talked to Autodesk about, why don't you include railing and RCP, right? The answer is always say, nah, just use whatever we have, right? But the thing is that sometimes you want to show that because railing, when you show it upside down, sometimes you use railing for canopies or something else, so you might as well. Wow, this model's big. Hello. So this is a question and answer session. You have donuts. You ask me anything, I'll just answer it and recording it. And hopefully those sort of things could become kind of like, if someone has that question and answer, this is kind of like the resources. So I'm going to be here for 2 hours.
2 hours? That's long.
Yeah, you don't have to be here. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to be here. Once I answer some question, like, people can just leave. That's fine. Okay, so let's go to your schedule. Okay, what sheet is it?
Actually, it is not in the sheet right now.
Oh, okay.
I can't even find which one is the right one.
Okay.
It says L1 to L4, Foster.
Okay. Okay, so it's right here.
Practically, I need the Foster, Martin, and Landmark all together.
All right, sure. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go edit this and look at the filter, what they have. Okay. Right now they say that, okay, shown in schedule contain yes, and then usage type is equals common. Okay, let's see what do they have. Okay, there is one for stair.
So practically I want everything.
Okay, sure. So let's say I'm going to say put contain common. Okay, it's above level 4. Let's see if it shows me anything. Okay. Sounds like, oh, forget about me. Sorry, I'm in the meeting right now. Sorry. I am on 7th. Come and join us for donuts. Donuts! All right. Yeah. Okay, so what I did here is that I took the level 4. But if you still have issues, then what we can do is that one thing I would typically recommend doing is that you want to check out all the doors within your project. So the next step I would do, if let's say not all of it would show up, then you go to the 3D model, isolate everything except for the door, and then now what we're going to do is that we're going to basically do a query and saying that what is common and what is not common, right? So what it does is that it will highlight certain things so you can actually check. Okay, so let me double check with this. Okay, so right now I'm just going to go in there, turn everything off except for the door. Okay. Okay, so I just turn everything off. I should turn off the other one as well, like, so you don't see the scope box. Okay, so this is all the doors. Next thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to say turn everything off here because you do not want links, right? So I just say turn them off. Turn off this annotation crap because we don't really need it. Okay, so this is all the doors you have inside. So the next thing you want to do is that double check and go to the filters. The first thing you want to do is that I'm going to go edit, create one like a door common, right? Say door common. The next thing you want to do is that click on door and then just go into the usage type. Usage type. Where's my usage type?
Down 4 of them. Down 4 spaces.
Oh, yeah, there you go. and you can say equals, comment, right? And then you could create
Contains.
or contains. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I think it's safer if you put it as contain, because sometimes what happens is that you have big letters, small letters, and sometimes Revit is very picky, right? So contains common. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this thing and also call it suite and as well as stair. Okay, so if you know that, if you're not sure if the door is available in all the suite, then this is a good way to check, right? So I'm going to go again new. Well, actually, I should just duplicate that. Just use and call it usage type contain suite, and they have another one. It's called stair, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and then you go edit again, and then I'm just going to duplicate this again. So you go in. Okay, you have, I have one for suite contains suite. Oh, this one's the same. Okay.
No, this is the one that you created.
That's correct. And then this one, what you can do, okay, so this one's already created, so I'm not going to touch this. I'm just going to call this contain. So I'm going to rename the other one for by, right? Because the reason why is that if someone created it, means that it's been used somewhere. So we're not sure where.
Not necessarily. I found so many doors scheduled, there's nothing.
No, I mean what it means by filter. If someone created a filter, I don't want to touch it. So what I typically do is that I'm just rename the other one as stair, right? The only, why you get that one? It's because if you have two person working on it and they're using the same filter, what happens is that if we state to central, that automatically named one or two, whatever. Kind of one of those weird bugs, but okay. So now I'm gonna do is that have that stair and scroll all the way down and let's figure out what is what. So here, here, and here. Okay. What I'm going to do is that when you do that, let's change the color for each one. So here, I'm just going to say color. It's going to be orange. Okay. And then for the pattern, I'm just going to put solid, right? Orange. So you actually see what you have. Okay. Just double checking to make sure that what door is what. But if it's good, it means that, yeah, you have no door that is, maybe I should just, solid. Okay. And then this one, I'm just going to put in pink. No, I should just put in solid fill. Okay, so right now what it does is that it tells me what it is. So it looks like majority of it is good except for the certain one, which is the outside. Okay, you can make them as a suite, right? So this is a good checking kind of mechanism saying that what door is not put into there. Okay, it looks like it's pretty complete. Okay, so I don't know if I think it looks kind of correct that it has all of that except for this tower stuff.
So doors also go to full stop. They're usually scheduled, but they're
typically I'd like to put them in, but you could just say not put them in. But the thing is that you have to go through it as like shop drawings. And again, within Revit, I like to put them in because later on you can kind of cross-check against the the schedule for the for shop drawings. Because if you don't know, sometimes the contractor doesn't know how many balcony doors for that. Well, they could calculate it, right? Let's say there's a skin and then go all the way up. But again, it's up to the user. Some project managers include it. Some project managers don't include it. Personally, I include them, right? Because they're a door, you might as well, right? But I know some people say, no, we don't do that. I would just, no, because when you want to clash and check whether you have this door, very important. So that's kind of my pet peeve.
These are windows.
You can say that those are windows, but I'll leave it up to the user how they want to kind of do it.
Okay, anyway, that is not a problem. I can check.
Yeah. So right now, what this does is that the 3D already highlight all that stuff. Maybe I should just turn them on. If you're not sure, then just say select all of this, and just say make it show all of it, right? So you have no hidden things inside your Revit model. The other thing you want to do is that if people are putting in different phases, you see that show all. I typically say none, right? Because none would just basically just show everything. Doesn't matter what phase you're in, okay? And it basically looks like, ooh, what this is? Yeah, you will see a couple crap like that in there, right? Because this is all the, what do you call it, the Cad, right? Cad Link. So, yeah, you know, sometimes you cannot control what people does, unfortunately. But anyway, so does that kind of help you? Because like the way I look at it, it looks like you got a couple doors. Oh, this door, it's you may have to check what level that is. Oh, that looks like it's foster.
I will check all of these things. It's not a problem. Can you show me the schedule that shows all these doors inside?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So what you could do is that if you want to select all the doors, basically what I would do is that if you want to like count it, the first thing I would do is that add this guy right here, count, right? Grand total, count them, okay? And then what you do is that you know that how many doors are in there, okay? I'm going to scroll all the way down to say, okay, you got 111 doors, okay? But the thing is that if you have 111 doors, it means that it's basically counting that 111 doors. Next thing you want to do is that once you have that, it says that level is above level 1. Okay, so sometimes P1, yes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say none for now, right? If you say none, it means that it's going to create a huge list. That's fine. We don't mind. The reason why I want to show all of it has to do with how much is the count in relation to your 3D model, right? So whatever 3D you show, and then you want to basically spot check and see that how many doors are in that particular. Let's say you have 725 doors. You go back to the 3D model, okay? And then what you do is that you want to show all the common areas, right? So all the commons, and then you clash that whatever doors, that number, the total in the schedule, clash it with whatever's in the 3D model, so that you get the accurate picture how many doors are inside the Revit. Okay, because right now what I'm saying is that you have suite, you have split it up, that's fine. Oops, shit. Sorry, it's my other project. So let's say here, I'm just going to turn off anything with this too, right? And then what you do is that you're going to select all the door. Oh, actually, let's see, how do you select all the doors without? Yeah, it's kind of hard if you have the model group, right? So the model group, let me say, okay, right now you have 768, right?
You know, because some doors are not often common.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's where you have this kind of like, you know, kind of like a check. Like this is a good way to check, right, whether your door is in there.
These are practically different.
Yeah, okay. Because right now this is set at common, right? So if there's a common, it will set as common, and then this door doesn't say anything. Well, it says common right there, right? It's part of that particular door. And then that's how you check. Like practically here, it doesn't say anything. This is double door, and that's foster. Do you want that to be common? I mean,
I have to check.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because Anna's, okay, right now she's handling it, so it's making sure that when people start doing this, they don't start adding in new doors, because what tends to happen is that when they add new doors, some of the information is not going to get placed. So what I typically do is that if you have similar door, copy the existing door from like one of them and then just host it there, so that all that information you have previously, let's say for example this information, by others and stuff like that, could be copied in with that. Okay, this is working drawings. Design development, we don't care. You can just put in new doors. But once you go into working drawings, you cannot add new doors. You have to copy information from another door, because so much of this information, it's going to get missing translation. And then when you look at the schedule, it's incomplete information. It's
okay, I can't find all these, you know, thing doors.
Sure.
The only thing that I want now, I want to make sure that schedule that you just created.
That's correct.
Has all the doors. It doesn't matter if it's suite, if it's common, or stairs, included from level 1 to level 4, all in one schedule. Okay, if that's what they want, okay, then what you do is that, okay, I'm going to go back to the schedule. I'm assuming it's this little guy right here. Is it? Or this one, door schedule. Okay.
Sure, we can do that, right? So what you do is that the next step is removing the filters, okay? So if it's shown in schedule, say yes. Then if you do not, we want to show all the doors, say none, right? What happens is that you're basically making all the doors shows up.
But I have to filter it between level 4 to level 1.
You can, yes, okay. So right now, what I'm trying to do is that
Right now we have everything.
You have everything, yes.
Yes.
Okay, you have everything.
I already scheduled and put together the parking level.
Yes.
All the parking levels still okay.
Yes.
I only need level 1 to level 4. All
Right.
together in one schedule, and that's it.
Okay. Okay, you have 981, right? So that's all the schedule. So I'm gonna undo what I did previously. So okay. So if you want all the schedule within level 1, then you can say, okay, this schedule, you're gonna go filter. Not the common, but the thing is that the only thing you have to change is that the level is above P1. Okay, that's the only one that you have to put in. You don't need usage type to say none. So right now what happens is that all the doors from the lower level, it's going to show up. Okay? So you notice that there's a couple of doors that haven't been numbered.
Okay.
Okay? And then when you scroll all the way down.
But I have tunnels here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they are on the level 1.
Yes. Okay. So what you can do is that right now you cannot like once you have the thing, right, you cannot rely on the level override anymore. So what you have to do is that you have to go use the level itself, the physical level. Okay? And when you hit OK, then what it does is that it will split by level. Now, you have to be careful because sometimes what tends to happen is that when people edit the boundaries of the curtain wall, it will lose the host. Let's say, for example, that original door is at level 1. When someone edits the profile of the curtain wall, that will lose the host, and that basically it wouldn't show, it would put it in some odd level. So there was a glitch a couple of times where the schedule wasn't reading properly. It's because someone actually modified the profile of the curtain wall. And
that one I can check one by one.
You can check one by one. Yes, you can check one by one, but this one is already split into level now. So
that's good enough for me, and thank you so much.
Okay.
Please.
Yep, sure, I can do that. No problem.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, any questions? Hope you guys learned something though, because this is how you check, right?
Thank you so much.
No problem. So this is how you check. Like if you have like a big project and then you want to check what is common, what is that. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to create a filter. Like I'm just recapping what I did in this project is that recap it and make sure that you have something that is clashed with, which is the 3D model, and then you just put in filters, a bunch of them, and set color. That way you can clash how many doors you have inside that versus how many doors you have inside that. So that's it. That's for that project. Now, I should go talk over about... Yep. Yep. Which means that the reason why it's blank is that this thing's not filled in, and then this one doesn't have a room. Okay? So just be aware of it. Yeah, I think a couple of days ago I talked about how to copy it in the schedule. So if you follow some of that stuff, you should be able to get all that information in there. Okay? Yeah, just that. Okay, so I have to talk to you about the Aviera. Okay, I know that Honor, basically, you are going to be the next person that's going to be taking care of SKA. He's working on SKA number, I think it was the other one, which is SKA 73 in AutoCAD for details. So what you have to do is that if you want, you can use his detail and then just superimpose that detail into Revit and just put it as an SKA. Aviera, you know, Escala, right? So you're the next person. So what we have right now is that that's the 73. Yeah, 73. He can, yeah, you can do that. You can do both ways. I'm going to set one up for, like, let's say, you know, you're busy and he can take over the AutoCAD side, so he can do that. But make sure you keep track of that, because what happens is that SKA has, like, you know, like I always keep it in track. If it's an AutoCAD, then you have to say bracket AutoCAD, right? So that people, whoever is going to be jump on the ship or jump onto this project, understand that that is in AutoCAD, so they have to know how to where to find it.
You know what I do? I just put a PDF onto the
On the Revit? Yep.
And then you know that that's part of it, and then when
Yes.
it's printed, it's there,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You don't have
exactly.
to go through
The AutoCAD. Yeah. That's another good way. So, like an image, like you put an
That's
image.
You
Yeah.
just
Paste it in. Yeah.
No,
Yep.
PDF. I know PDF is okay. Or, I'm sorry?
Is that in scale then?
Yes, if you put it there, I know there's a way of putting it in scale. Normally, when you draw it in AutoCAD, your scale is the 11 by 17, right? Most of our AFC is 11 by 17, or whatever sheet, right? So when AutoCAD's there, you just PDF that, and then, do you convert that to
The image file, like.
image file, or
Yeah, I
PDF
think-
can go in? I'm not sure
No,
anymore,
PDF
but.
can't go in. But, you have to watch that, because if you put a bunch of images into, import them into Revit,
It adds
your
size.
file size is gonna
Big.
really balloon.
Yeah.
So that's, I would be very careful about
Then you
that.
have to be careful about your files then, if
You
you
might-
have to put it outside.
Yeah. Typically, what I do is that I would use the Cad Link. Put the image into the, let's say you have an AutoCAD drawing. You link the images into the AutoCAD and then link that AutoCAD into the Cad Link.
On the floor plan.
That's correct. And then you just reference it in. But if you want to be quick and dirty, let's say you have a PDF. Like if you want to be like the most, let's see, I'm gonna double check on images. So let's say you have this sort of file. Okay, let's say this is your IFC, right? Let's say I'm going to open up one of these. Open with Adobe, okay? Let's say this is your typical thing, okay? Now, if you know that that is a black and white, you can go save as, okay? The first thing you want to do is that what to choose. PNG will give you the best result, but the thing is that you have to click on the setting, and within the setting, you see that there's the color space, monochrome, grayscale, RGB. If you put monochrome, that file size is only like kilobytes. I'll show it to you. Yeah, I typically put like 300 is probably good, but 150 is plenty, right? But if you go 72, it gets very pixelated, so just be careful. And grayscale off, whatever, and then color space monochrome, and then when you go save this, right? And what happens is that that particular file size, you see that it's only 64 kilobytes. Very small, right? And then this is what it looks like. And then when you put it in, it looks like, you know, it's like another CAD drawing. So that's one way of reducing file size, because if that thing is only black and white, just make it monochrome, and then, you know, the file size becomes smaller. If you put it as color, that file size is like sometimes one.
So what is the number there?
I put 300. Like, so 300 sometimes gives you good resolution. Once you hit like 150 and then 72 becomes pixelated, sometimes you cannot read the text. 300 minimum. Yeah, if it's black and white, it's fine. Okay, just as a kind of like, you know, if you want to put that in, okay, that's the result I would probably choose. Now the other thing he wants to do is that he wants to do this lobby entry. Okay, so the 56. So what I did is I set this up, kind of a thing. Jury, come in, join our party. Yeah, it's not going to be 2 hours, so you can come in and go out, kind of a thing. So I'm just doing like an open question and answer kind of a session if people have any question and answer. Yeah, but go ahead. If you want donuts, go ahead.
Well, I don't need to dive into drawings, so they do need to talk to you when you are done.
Okay, sure. It's going to be 2 hours, so once I'm done, I'll come to you.
2 hours from now?
I'll be done at 4:30. So it could be earlier though. Who knows? It really depends. Unless you want to go.
But I was gonna try and duck out early today.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
If you're all coming, interrupt then. Thanks.
Sure. So one thing I forgot to mention, Jeannie, is that this detail I created as a separate file. Okay? Because what happened is that the current file showing concrete, but this one we're doing a frame system. So what happens is that rather than changing the model, we're just changing the detail, just reference it in. So when you're doing Revit and stuff like that, you're doing a retrofit and stuff like that, 2D drawings, it's okay to basically have.
It's a link, Cad Link.
It's a link. No, it's a Revit link.
Oh, it's a Revit.
yeah, so what happens is that this is all Revit Link. I put it outside because you know what? Sometimes when you have details, it sometimes could slow your drawing down as much as possible. Like you're trying to avoid having a lot of details, because what tends to happen is that the more details you put inside Revit, the performance just drops dramatically. Okay? Because a lot of the time people copied in details from who knows where. Sometimes it's Revit, sometimes it's AutoCAD Link in. What happens is that Revit would take that individual lines as components and stuff like that, as a calculated value. The more you have there, sometimes the performance drops. Okay, I think, Jeannie, you probably experienced this project, that if the lines are off angle, the performance is, nobody can work in it, right? It's the same idea. So if you are attempting to do details in the future for Revit, my advice is that try to create another separate file. Okay, so what you do is that you have, maybe I should show you what's in here, right, so that you get a better understanding. Let's say I'm going to go into IBI, and okay, so what I have is that I have a lobby detail, and the file size for this, like if I click on size, you see that it's only like 12 megs, right? So what happens is that when you do a detail, it basically references that file. So any junk pertaining to what you're doing, it stays in there. Okay, so it will not affect the overall model performance. All we're doing is that we're referencing those information. Oh, what I did is that, I'll show to you how I do it, is that I took the actual, the model, linked them in directly, and what happened is that in here, all of this are basically just 2D elements. So first you have your grids, and then you have like the models, right? And you're just referencing in, and then you just draw stuff on top of it. Okay, just as how you do it for detailing. Not everything has to be live model.
I don't have to go to another, just bring in back the model.
That's correct, yeah. So what you do is say, yeah, so if Nora is asking, oh, please edit this and change this, just go to this file and edit them. Okay, that way it's pretty set. I think I already kind of finished a lot of this stuff, so all you have to do is, you know, just reference it as that, and then it becomes much easier to work with. Okay, any questions so far? I think that's pretty much it. I think, I know Nora and myself wants to talk to you about that stuff, so I'm just basically bringing this heads up just in case I don't have time at the end. I may have to come back tonight just to archive a lot of my stuff. This is the original.
Is that the same as the way you link the other file for me? I just
pretty much. It's the same idea.
Same idea?
Yeah, same idea. So if let's say you're working on multiple projects, what the tendency is that if you have like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, let's say it's a tower, the good thing is that you have to create another file where, you know, you have all the details, everything in one of that file, and then you link that into your tower 1, tower 2, tower 3 model. That way you're not recreating all this data.
So my question is, how about the levels? Do you create your own levels here, or?
You can create your own levels, yes. I typically like to do it because it's just the matching. I did, yeah. This one has a level in it. Okay, just in case, like, if you want to reference, like, level 20, and you're doing a certain detail there, then you can just go to that level 20 and just create a detail there. Makes it much easier. Yes, go for it. Go for donuts. Indulge yourself. So this is just basically kind of like how we tackle details inside Revit, kind of a thing. So you have a separate file so that that person can just work. And then
it's still a live model.
It's still alive, but it's another separate file so that you're not slowing down the other team. Because I think that's the major issue is that people have details inside of Revit model, which is live, and then that slows everybody down. So I think in the future, if you want to do it very good, put the detail aside, because detail can be done by anybody. It could be like, you know, good detailer, or it could be bad detailer, who knows. But a lot of time, those details tend to slow down with Revit, and then it compromises your workflow.
So do you do the same, that you have to copy and make it block so that it can paste onto your? You
can, yes. Okay.
Is that how you do this too?
What I did in here is that I just basically grouped them together, right?
Yeah, you group them, and then
yes.
you.
And then what you can do is that you can create a what's known as a safe space, right? So if you want to do like a I call it safe space, like a detail view, right? Let's say you want to accumulate all the details together, call it like, detail view, right? But make sure that the scale itself is the same, right? Let's say this is plan detail. Plan. Okay, so what you have is that you have a detail view in here. It's the 1/2 inch. So all you have to do is that this detail, when you group them together, it just basically becomes its own thing. And what you can do is that you can copy this and then paste it into your detail view, right? And just go to here and go paste. Let's say modify, paste, paste current view. Okay.
Put it in the call out.
Yeah. Well, what I like to do with this is that what I'm showing you right now is that a lot of time you have a lot of details, and Revit is very slow when it comes to drag and drop into the sheet. It takes a lot of time. So what I typically like people start thinking about is that rather than doing that, you want to plan the details so that this is your sheet. Let's say this is, think of this as your sheet, right? With all your detail. I should just.
Is that a drafting view?
Yeah, it's a drafting view. So let's say this is kind of like your plan out view kind of a thing where you put all your sheets within a detail and then just say, okay, this is all my detail. I'm just going to put a box around this. Okay. And then this is kind of like the place where you put all the details, right? Like that. Think of it like that. And what you do is that you go into here, you can just place it anywhere here. Since this thing is a group with this particular detail, right? So you don't care. This one is live, right? So this is live to the Revit model. The other one, the drafting view, is just basically a placeholder for you to kind of like set them together. So let's say I'm going to copy this, go back to the drafting view, and then say paste it here, right? Just as a placeholder. And then when you put it on the sheet, let's say I'm going to create a big sheet, right?
Now that contains only drafting elements. It does not include like the grid lines or any model.
Yeah. So basically what you have to do is that you kind of have to put that kind of like temporary override, but most of the time if it's a typical detail, these sort of things that you could do. Okay, and then go new sheet to say there is no sheet in here. And what you do with this is that you basically place this drafting view as kind of like your sheet that has all the details. So rather than having like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, place it or not, it's very slow because once you think about hundreds and hundreds of details, this can slow you down considerably, especially in Revit, because you have to go through all the details. But the only thing you lose out of this is that the view, like the referencing, where you reference the detail, that's the only disadvantage to this method. But this is pretty fast. Like, I mean, if you have a placeholder, this is a pretty good method.
Have you referenced where these details are found?
Oh, okay. Simple trick that I've used, but it is effective, but it's kind of like every time when you go in, it's always showing you blank. So what I mean by that is that, let's say, for example, if you want to reference this detail in your kind of like your project, what I typically like to do is that I typically just go in here and say duplicate dependent, call whatever detail you want. Let's say this is SKA or detail 1 or 01 detail, or actually I should say detail 1. Let's say rename detail 1 01. And what I like to do with this is that you create a box, a super small box that is like somewhere middle nowhere, right? This just as a box, right? With nothing in it, because you don't care about that. All you care about is just the view, kind of, yeah, just a number. Like let's say that's detail 1, and you just keep duplicating. Oh, actually, duplicating dependent. You keep doing it, and then you just keep doing the same thing. Detail 2. You don't care about that. And then the next thing you want to do is that you basically just say, okay, I'm going to place it here. That's a simple thing, nothing special. Paste it here. That's just kind of like, like a placeholder, kind of a box, right? Now, what you do is that when you go back and you want to reference that detail, right, all I have to do is that I'm going to go into the view and go to the callout, and I'm going to say reference to a view, what that is. Let's say that's the 1. Bang, and then call out, view reference. That's all I do. I mean, yeah, it's work.
That's on the live floor.
Exactly. But the thing is that when you go into this, it's blank, right? It's not nothing. But you're just using it as a view, kind of like, you know, you want the number. Yeah. But that's kind of how I overcome it. But you know, it's not the best. But
You drag it on the drafting view.
you have to like drafting view. You cannot create multiple, you know, like dependent views.
No, you create a dependent.
Yeah. First, I created.
And then you drag it on the drafting.
Yeah. Well, what I did is that I created like a sheet. This is the sheet itself, right? Okay, let's say that's my sheet, right? So what I did here is that I just basically drag and drop the big detail view. Yeah, and then this one is just a little view with nothing in it. Okay, you don't care. But the only thing I use out of this is just the view reference for the detail. That's it. So that's all you use it for, nothing else, right? So what happened is that this big detail, just turn them off to say like no title, and then this one becomes your title for each individual. So that's how you trick it, right? So this becomes kind of like your big view, and then this is kind of like your little view. Most of the time, you just want to get that reference kind of a thing in there so that you get that information. So that's how I do it quickly. Right, because I know that detail is not something that's very fast in Revit, but this is sort of a way to kind of help you kind of fast track this rather than doing something that's like, you know, you have to do every crop, everything, and it's very annoying, but this is how I kind of overcome that.
I've noticed a couple of people asking about the webinar. A couple of people can't link to the
YouTube?
No.
That's a message.
To this webinar.
Oh, to this webinar.
They're trying to listen in.
Oh.
Amy was planning to.
Yeah, that's why I tried to come in here.
Yeah. I don't know why, but because the thing is that I have it recording, that's fine. But it's up to the user if they want to come in. But hopefully this.
I couldn't read it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I set it up. I'm assuming that it could be different time or something. I don't know.
Or maybe it's my computer.
Probably. Yeah, if you have the new Windows 10, probably they haven't give you rights to certain things. Yeah. Oh, I already started. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just like that on my computer.
Oh, really? Okay. I don't know because it's already starting. Sheesh. I don't know. You're connected. Yeah, it's already shown. So, anyways, any questions so far with this? This is a good way, kind of like a very, very fast. It's not really like, you know, you have to do everything within Revit rules because if the time is really constrained, think of this method, right? Because it could help you kind of speed up the process. Even though it's not the best, but at least you have something to get it done.
To drag and drop things.
Yeah.
And create the referencing by duplicating the view.
Exactly.
That.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So sort of get it kind of a thing. Yeah, I had this workout kind of a thing, and then, you know, I was thinking, I mean, maybe this will work in the future if people want to try it, right? Because this is not something that you want to use on a daily basis, but if you have a proper detail, then do it properly. But if you don't have the time and you need to get something out, this is acceptable, but make sure that you go back and, you know, do the proper kind of way. But it's just mostly no time, right? It's just almost like you're on deadline and you need to get it out tomorrow. This is the quickest way to kind of set it up. Okay?
Does the amount of things models affect
That's the amount. It does. Okay, so in this Revit model, I have a link. So what happened is that, let's see, where is it? Okay. In here, what I have is that I have, well, this one I don't have anything. Okay, so I have to close out of that. It will perform terribly if you link a lot of files, right? So this one, I have one link that is exterior skin. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manage and reload this.
So that's in the detail file?
Yeah, that's in the detail file. So basically I linked them in like that. Okay. Okay, so Robert's question is that does having a lot of links slow down Revit? It does. It does. So what I have in here is that if you have a lot of repeating elements, especially when you're doing, let's say, a condo unit that is repeating like 40 floors and stuff like that, the performance would take a hit. If you say you create one inside Revit Link and then you copy multiple times, it will crash your Revit, especially when you do scheduling. Okay? It never works. So this is why I said if you have to do it, do not include schedule into that, because the minute that you hit schedule, Revit crash. Okay? Because it's the amount of information. Linking, you have to think of it as another separate tower. Don't treat it as an XREF, because that's what I think one project in particular, they treat it like XREF. They XREF everything in. There's so many XREFs with different conditions. At the end, it just doesn't work. Okay, it slows the whole project down. Okay, so in here, what I did is that I have a link model that is basically, help yourself to donuts. So, okay, so what I have is that I have this. So what I have is that I have a link in the skin from, let's say, the typical level up to the upper level. And what happened is that when I link them in, the performance actually deteriorates. Because when I kind of scroll in or do section to do everything, right now the model is okay, but when you start cutting section and do a floor plan, and when you start, like, let's say, for example, I'll show you an example, let's say level 7, right? So let's say, for example, in the link model, I have all my model got turned on. Let's say, for example, I have link, I turn them on. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully this is a recording, so that's fine. You can listen to any time. But sure. But the thing is that right now what happens is that when I turn them on, you see that the performance just take a hit. Like it's basically scrolled pretty slowly. So if I turn those things, two of them off, right? Let's say this one and this one, turn them off. The performance becomes way better. Okay, so this is why, like, when you have to link the multiple levels, you see that right now it's way better than previous one.
These are all 3D.
It's all 3D components. Yes. Yes.
I have like Washington standards. Depending on which project they're different. Like Vancouver.
Yeah.
So they're small, but they're all things.
Yeah. Try not to link. No, don't do that. If you have to do it, do a family. Put them inside a family, and then just basically have like a sync unit, whatever, and then just put it inside a family, and then put that as a family. Do not link them in, because linking.
I'm not repeating. It's just their color. It's like a project reference sheet.
Oh, project reference sheet.
Typical details. It only happens once in the project.
Oh, I see. If you're doing that, why not just basically use a drafting kind of a view, the 2D thing, right? The reason why we use the 2D rather than the model is because the detail can be copied multiple times in different projects. Whereas the model, the problem with the model is more to do with when you copy one, you have to place it in the proper level. So I would just say drafting view is the best, right? If you want to copy multiple, let's say referencing, just do one detail and then do 2D components of that sync and stuff like that and do dimension to it. And then you copy that information drafting view into some other stuff, it works fine.
Project to project.
Yeah, the project's fine.
So I can't, let's say, change.
You just modify the drafting view, yeah. You could create a family with like drafting views, and then you just basically say this is the toilet clearances or whatever. It can be done, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I change. I have to change 10 times. I have a copy of any other project.
You can. But there's another one I haven't talked about. It's called the global parameter. What a global parameter does is that if, let's say, you have a condition, let's say you're in the city of Vancouver, and you have a certain width clearances, and then in another project, that's another width clearances differences. So what global parameter does is that it's per project. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys encounter that. Let's say, for example, let's see, I try to find an object where there is a width changes and stuff like that. So let me see if I can find something that is that you can control using global parameter. Fire rating is not good. So let me create a something like a family. So I'm just gonna do a live kind of like demo how to do a family. So let's say, for example, treat this as you know, the width of the stair, for instance, right? I'm gonna call this stair width. Let's say that is 3'8". Okay. So let's say right now I'm gonna say add a parameter, make it an instance parameter, and say this is stair width. Okay. So there's an instance parameter. I don't care about that length. And then the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to basically create that and just finish it. And I'm just going to dump it in to my project. So global parameters was first introduced in 2016, I believe, and I think Service Pack 2. Well, I think if you have the older version, it does not work. So make sure you update to the newest version. So right now what you can do with this is that you see that stair width. Let's say if you, like, it doesn't matter if it's a bathroom or whatever, you can create one called, add a parameter called the global parameter. Okay, so this is the stair width. Okay, so what happens is that if you have a template that has a global parameter, so every time when, let's say, the jurisdiction changes, what the user has to do is that I think you go to manage, and there is one called the global parameter. I'm not sure where it is. It could be project for
2 over from that.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a global parameter, right? You click on this, you notice that there's a width, right? You can change this to say, okay, I don't need that. I need 1200 millimeters, right? And what happens is that whenever there's a stair, that automatically changes for all the stairs within the global parameter. Okay, this is very good, especially when you're doing code checking and stuff like that. This is a very powerful tool. Okay, it's something that city they haven't implemented, but the thing is that this becomes very good, especially when you have a typical bathroom type, and you want to basically say for this jurisdiction it's going to be this size, for that jurisdiction. So basically, when you have the global parameter to say take it to that size. This could work for details as well. So if you have a detail, let's say your curb height is 8 inches, and you say in the detail you also set like a detail to be a certain height, you can set it to global parameter so that if when you have a curb, let's say it's 16 inches or whatever, say global parameter 16 inches, then all the detail follows with it. Okay? So it's very powerful. It's just that I haven't really gotten into it yet, right? Because I was like, there's an application for this. But if you are doing like typical details and all that stuff, this becomes very, very good. So when you go from one project to another, you can set that up, and then that's it. Sorry, in a meeting. Hello, I'm in a meeting. Hello, I'm in a meeting. I am in a meeting. Hello? Okay, goodbye. Anyways, so yeah, use that for what it is. Experiment it. I think when you set up like any setup like within a project, let's say you're doing high rise and all that stuff, if you can control this, then a lot of your projects is going to be done very seamlessly, because all you have to do is tie with the global parameter and everything just works. Okay. So far, any more questions you guys have? Pretty good? All right. I mean, this is something, I mean, it can be done. Like, let's say you have a parking stall. Parking stall is a perfect example, because every jurisdiction has like different parking stalls. So if you put that into global parameter, and then this project, let's say, is located in Richmond, then you can say, what's my parking stall? You just put those number in, and that becomes kind of drive your thing. Okay?
So how do you get that global parameter?
Oh, first thing is that when you have a global parameter, it has to be an instance parameter. It has to be an instance. So you cannot use, I'm not sure if you can use type. Let me double check. Yeah, so if you click on this, you see that the type parameter doesn't have anything. It has to be an instance parameter. So make sure that when you create any family, it has to be an instance. So that instance means that you can just change it according to whatever it is, right? So, well, I hope you learned something about global parameter. Use it to your full advantage. It's something I was trying to implement for my next project, but no time. You know, this could drive a lot of stuff. I mean, it was like, it's crazy stuff. So any other question? No? Hopefully you learned something. Do you have a question or not really?
I'm trying to think on how to apply that. You said stairs.
Mm-hmm.
You say 3 feet 8. So anything to do, how would you link that in?
Okay. If it's a physical stair.
Stairs and the global parameter.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let's say, for example, you have a stair. I'm not sure if you can do it with a system family. It's only work for family like that you created, but I'm not sure if you can do it for system family. Let me double check. This one you can attach to it. Let's say the width, the actual width. No, you cannot. You see here, it's already preset. Let me double check and see if I could add anything, global parameter. So to check whether you have a global parameter, it's like make sure that you check there's a button there. If there's a button, you can control it. But if there is no button, means that you cannot use global parameter. Riser height, blah blah blah. Yeah. I think this one it's pretty much set in a system family. You cannot control it. So this is all predetermined. Now, a couple things. I think in the template, I forgot to mention to everybody if you want to know. When you open up this new template, something that they don't tell you is that when you create a stair in this particular one, something that user has to be aware of is the when you add a stair. Okay, let's say I want to add a stair, 15 risers. The one thing that you have to check on is this guy right here, end with risers. The reason why is that by default, this stupid thing is that they didn't, I always like it to check off. You know the reason why, right? Because when you go into the plan, you have to, it's wrong in terms of counting, okay? When we do architecture, we always say end with riser so that this one would count as one less rather than one more, okay?
It's counting the risers.
That's correct. That's something that you have to keep in mind, right? In this template, I know that when people does this thing, they don't check. And what happens is that their landing is like less than 3'8", right? Or 1200 millimeters or something. And that's one mistake that a lot of common people make, okay? It's that they don't check this. They don't know what this does. Reality-wise is that when you start drawing your stairs, always end with risers so that you have one step less. Unless you are going to use, unless when you cut a section, let's say I'm going to create a floor here. Okay, let's say this is a simple floor, and I'm just going to cut a section here. So if you say you end with risers, basically what does that is stop one short. But if you say you check that off, let me check it off just to demonstrate. Maybe I should just copy one. I'm just going to copy one right here. And then edit that stair. And then what you do is that when you check that off, you kind of have to add another one, let's say right there. And when you copy, let's say the same one over here, you notice that that stair wants to be part of something, okay? When you do construction, it's better to be right than wrong, but this one, the nicest thing about this is that you can merge. I think that's the reason behind it. But when you're doing like a high-rise building, this can means misleading, right? When you hit like a tagging and say how many risers, how many thing, whatever, it's wrong because it's going to add one more. So something to be careful, right? Because I know that detail-wise, this looks really nice, but practically, when you tag it, it's wrong. Okay, something to keep in mind. I know some users just say, just do one, and then it's wrong. Okay, it's practicality versus detailing. Okay, this looks nice on detail. The other one's more of the actual risers. So any questions so far?
I have to uncheck it for every flight of stairs.
You have to do it for check to every flight, yes.
That's really, really hard. And sometimes, when you are
Yeah.
like 4 flights of stairs,
That's right.
Stop, uncheck it.
This is why I don't like it. It's like whoever set up the template, I think they checked that off by default, and then now everybody has to keep unchecked, like keep checking that. It's very annoying. So, yeah, the only way you can get it to work, if you want, I don't recommend starting from like default template, right? There's an out-of-the-box template, like let's say Imperial, and then I just use the default.
It's something that we need to change.
Yeah, it's very, like last time I changed it, once somebody set it up, it's very hard to uncheck, right? I tried so many times, so it's something to talk to the team, right? So here, when I create the same stair, and let's say you see that automatically is default, okay? That's what should be. It should be default. So I think it's something to talk to the team, because I know that Calgary and other jurisdictions may use a different kind of a thing.
I want to make a template that works for
a high-rise team.
High-rise,
because
so that's one thing I will include in it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now, the other thing that a lot of users don't seem to notice is that you can actually add like a double kind of like lines. Okay. I know that Revit is like, oh, this looks kind of ugly, right? So, okay, how you add it in is that it has to do with this guy right here. When you scroll all the way down, there's a single zigzag. And what I typically like to do is that I like to duplicate this and call it double. Double zig. Right? So what you can do is that I want a double line. And then once you have a double line, say okay. It looks like that, but you can always make it so that it looks like, to using a filter. It's something that, by default it's always off, but you can customize it to make it look like that, right? If all else fails, just put a masking region. That's all I do. Okay, yeah, that's typically how I work, right? Because if nothing works, just use masking region. But this is another way, right? You could use this to just, create that double.
Question.
Sure.
Let's see, sometimes I encounter on a floor plan, the bottom shows up and the top shows up. Everything is so messy, and then they're not like aligned perfectly. Like the risers, the threads are not aligned from the top and the bottom. So the top and the bottom are showing, and then it gets to be, when there's continuous floors, right?
Yes.
These are kind of.
Oh yes.
Most of the time, we don't need to show the stair above.
Yes.
So all the dash line there would be.
Yeah. So what I typically do is that by default is that I would go to stair. Okay. There is a stair.
Stairs and railing.
Yeah, exactly. You see that there's above. Yeah. So make sure the above right here. Yeah, VV. Yeah. And all I have to do is just turn that off. Right. Railing, same thing. It's just as a visibility, I guess. Revit is in there, but the thing is that you have to make it turned off. Okay, just turn them off, and then it won't show up. Okay, something like that. The other trick I always find people do is that people like to do this, and then they like to put like add point, and then make this point to be, let's say, -2 inches, for instance. So let's say assume that there's a drain line right there, right? But sometimes that stupid thing is very ugly, right? There's a way you can turn them off. So I would typically do that. You have to go to every single floor and turn them off. But there is another way I typically do is that I go to object styles, Okay. What I do is that for the floor, click on the floor. What I typically do is that interior edge, I like to make it like one, like very light, and black, I make it white, so that when you go in there, you see that you don't see that bloody line. Okay, that's a good trick, kind of a thing. Make it white so you don't show. But the thing is that when you export this out to AutoCAD, you start to see that stuff. So the other extra precautionary things I would do is that go to VV and go to floor and just turn that thing off. Okay, it's just more for like, okay, if you need to show it, that's fine. But if you do not want to show it, I just typically turn them off. So if you turn, we typically show it. But the thing is that when you go slab edges, I typically like to show more of a dashed line, right? So you see those points. So, okay, hopefully that helps you a little bit. Any other questions so far? It's a quick trick with Revit. I know that sometimes people have issues. Now, the other thing I should mention as well is that people always, let's say I'm going to erase this. Let's say I'm going to make this 10th floor, for instance. Now, there's a tendency that people like to group this and then copy. Don't bother, because what happens is that in here you see there's a multi-story level. If your levels are the same, like from one level to the other, the only thing you have to do is to just tell it which level it goes to, right? And then say level 11, you notice that it repeats. So Revit can do that automatically. So you change one, it basically changes the rest. So those are basically your repeating element. In the newer version Revit, it doesn't matter what floor you're in. If the floor is slightly less than the other, it will automatically readjust all the railing and everything based on the new one. So you can have like different floor heights, and then Revit will basically calculate those things pretty fast. I mean, if you're doing like a design and stuff like that, this is a perfect kind of a, very quick and dirty stairs. You just create this and then just say move it up, and then that's it. Okay, it's something that I've seen like a lot of users tend to do is that, oh, this is repeating. Stairs doesn't like to be in the group. Okay, anything with a group, what happens that people tend to put in anything that is structured, for instance. Let's say, for example, I'm going to put a column there. Okay. By default, it's always going to be in depth, so make sure you change it to height. I know it's very, very annoying, but that's how you make it. Yeah, it is. So you have to change it because
Structural engineers think differently than us. They think of what the floor below is doing.
Oh, so it's going underneath all the time, yeah. And height of floor is.
Well, just change that in the options bar.
yeah,
We think from this floor up. Structural engineers think from that floor down.
yeah, that's how they do it.
So a structural column by default will go in.
Okay.
Okay, when you do this, let's say, for example, I know that sometimes people like to put in column from one level to the other, right? Let's say, for example, I like to put it like level 9. Make sure that when you have two constraints, you always have to make sure that this is always set to 0. Yeah, the offset. Because what tends to happen is that a lot of users tend to like put this really high offset, say this is 12 feet or whatever, right? This makes no sense.
Is that the top level or the?
That's the top level.
0.
Yes. Now, if you want to make them unconnected, then you have to make sure that they're the same height and just define the height. That's how you do it, like for a column. Okay, so if you have a column and then you want to make sure that those are basically the same height, or not unconnected to the next level, then you say level 1, and give it a height. Okay, that's fine. But when it comes to, let's say, you have to attach the second level, let's say level 5, and there's a tendency that people want to offshoot this by 12 feet or whatever, like add a value. Normally, don't do that. Okay, don't ever do that. That's a bad modeling practice inside Revit. Because Revit needs a constraint. If you know that your level is 1 and you want to finish up with 5, right? Just make sure that you go from 1 to 5. Don't give it like an offset. I know that some people, what does is that the constraint is level 3, and then they stretch, give it a height, or you do this, constrain it. Okay, because I've seen in one model where people have to change height, and some of the wall got moved up because of that issue. People give it like a huge offset, a weird offset, and that basically breaks your model itself. So this is why I said when you define something, define a starting level and then the end level. That way, when Revit starts to, like, let's say a level move, the client say I have to move this up by a foot or something, then it will follow, right? Revit will follow it properly.
Okay, but you see it, like, if you see the top, let's say, offset, the top level offset is 0, then you see that line that there's something there.
Yes, that's right.
So how do you take that out? Like,
Oh, if you want to take it out, just say -9. Like, let's say, for example, your slab is like 12 inches. Yeah, just go negative, right? So I typically like to say that whatever the thickness of your floor, just minus that, so you don't see it. Okay? Now, grouping, I know that grouping is a very sensitive thing. If you want to make your group really flexible, okay, the number one thing I would tell the user do, I'm going to go back to the project I'm working on. Okay, so if you want to make your project really flexible, the first thing you want to do is that within a group, you want to basically put them so that they're unconnected, right? So one of the things I did with this project, I have to turn off a lot of stuff, sorry. Oh, shoot, I should close this off. Okay, so when it comes to grouping, grouping is one of those things that, you know, user tends to either do it wrong or do it right, okay? To do it right in a group, the first thing you want to do is that when you do a group, this is a fire rating, this is just a non-fire rating, this can never go and butt up against this. The minute this thing gets butt up against that, it means that your firewall, like your wall itself, is compromised. Okay, Revit treats it as kind of like if there's a join, it means that you're joining to that, it means there's a compromise in your fire rating. Don't allow joining, okay? So if you do not want to compromise it, that's fine. When it comes to calculating the, let's say, when you deliver this model and give it to contractor, the minute you join this, it means that that little gypsum here don't get counted, okay? So it could be less. So if it's joined, it means that this thing's less. If it's unjoined, it means that it's going to be more, okay? Something to keep in mind, because every time when you join anything inside Revit, it means that it takes off part of your gypsum wallboard. So it could take that part out of the calculation. Something to keep in mind. So most of the time for the grouping is that you define where the firewall is supposed to be, right? And what happens is that all the other one, you should basically unjoin it. Okay, that's the proper way of doing it. Okay. Yes. It's always going to join, regardless. Yeah. Well, you kind of have to go into this particular one. Let's say edit the group.
Not by default, you have to do each join.
Yeah, separately. You have to detach it or allow join or disallow join, right?
What default?
Default is always going to join. Okay. So this is why this is very important. Like when you're doing any construction documentation, this is why like designers, they don't care, right? They say join everything, it looks nice. When you go construction, completely different animal. Well, you want certain things to join. Like for example, if this is a firewall, you want it to join together. That's fine. So that way, when you go to this detail, let's say I wanted to like go to the fire. Okay. You notice that it basically goes to the correct, you know, how many layers, on which side. So you understand that, right? So Revit has that kind of capability. If you don't allow it, it means that it's going to join and it's basically poking. Here's an example. If you join it, all right. Okay, there you go. So that thing gets compromised. All right. So just be careful, because I know that designers tend not to think that. You just join it and then assume everything works. A lot of time for construction, I have to unjoin this. The other thing, if you join this together with this another group, you create another error. It's called the join are not editable. Be very difficult to clean because you have to cut and paste your wall. It's something that user has to make sure that they understand what they're doing, right? Because sometimes they just do their own thing. So it's just discipline, right? It's just that they have to understand how construction works, how we do things. And that way, you know, you allow this to be very seamless if you know how to do that. Okay, any questions so far with this? No question. All right, the other thing is that if you want to make your level joining pretty good, let's say, for example, you're changing levels and then you want to keep the same unit, let's say the lower unit you have 10 foot high and the upper unit you have like 8 foot high, whatever. So what I typically do is that level 2 in this particular project, this has the same unit except that this has a higher ceiling. This is the same unit as this, okay? This has higher ceiling, that has lower ceiling. So let me cut a section to here. So when you do grouping, you always want to pick the lowest level. Let's say if the level is like 9 foot ceiling, and then 9 foot is the highest point. So, ooh, okay, no good. I don't want to use this. Let me cut a section so you can understand what I'm trying to say. So Peter, are you following so far or not really? Okay. So inside Revit, rather than treating it as 2 different groups, because 2 different groups means that there's a chance that one person can make a mistake. Okay, that's always happened the case. So when you're doing a unit suite layout, etc., you always want to make the same group for each type of unit as much as possible, unless certain condition permits that from doing so. But if it's the different units, treat it as different unit. Don't say level, like let's say suite E1 level 6, and then the rest is different units. So in one project, I have to look at it. What's the difference, right? It's just another way of kind of isolating mistakes.
Okay, question.
Sure.
So you said that, but let's say it's the same unit on the 40th floor.
Yes.
But the column is smaller.
Yes.
How would you treat that?
Oh, column is fine. It's different. So what you happen is that anything with like let's say size changes and stuff like that, you have to treat it as a different, like outside of, you know, the typical group. So when you have like a group, exactly. So when anything that's repeating is the same, treat it as one group. But anything that is different, put it as an outside of the group so that you don't see that.
Or make another group for that. And then just
portion you can, but again, it's up to the discretionary. It depends on the conditions. Okay, for example, I'm going to turn off the site. Okay, so what I mentioned before is that this height is different than this height, but they're sharing the same group. Okay, let's say this one, when I select it, select all similar entire project. You notice that it's the same. So inside this level 2, you can actually connect it to the underside. Let's say, for example, one group is done, you want to connect it. All you have to do is just select the wall and say, attach it to the underside of that. Okay? You can still do that. So when the level keeps changing, that allows it to flex. Okay, I've tried so many projects, it works pretty good. I didn't do anything to the group. All I did is that the only one trick you have to do is that you have to make that this wall has to be unconnected. That is the only, okay? So now what happens is that regardless of what height this lower unit is and how high that is, you can basically say attach it to the underside so that when you stretch up and down, this thing will change up and down.
The same group doesn't affect the other one?
Nope.
The rest will stay unconnected.
Exactly. I know, but the thing is that it's up to the user if they want to do this. Sure.
So when you move that wall, it's not going to move that slab. It's almost connected.
Well, this slab is different, right?
Let's say it's attached to the slab. If you move that wall, that's attached to the slab. You move the slab as well.
No, it's a treat it as different. The one thing you have to be careful with is that if anybody start modifying certain things, this thing will want to ungroup itself. Just be careful. It happens to a couple of times. Making sure that, what I mean by that is that if the slab is final, the user should not move it, modify, do whatever, right, without letting somebody know, because if anything gets attached to this, if someone moved it, this whole group would be unjoined. Okay, that's the only caveat. But most of the time, if the group itself, you know, the floor level is fine, and you know, when you move this level up and down, that thing will just follow with it. So
you build the group in the shortest floor, shortest floor,
shortest floor, yes, yes.
And when you build a wall, you're not given the parameter of it being full height or to the underside of the ceiling? Or
you can. You can.
We should. Do we not build our walls that way?
You can typically. No, this is like more of a trick, right? Like you do not want, like, let's say for example, you do not want to create another type just to satisfy that, because in the past, what someone did with, let's say there's a difference in level, is that one group has to be different than the other. If let's say one person did changes in one particular unit, the lower floor tends to get ignored. So what happened in that scenario is that there's a bunch of mistakes and the lower level wasn't resolved. So by doing this, you keep to the lowest level and then just say unconnected, so that when you copy this to the lower level, even though they're shorter like that, you can still attach it to the underside of that particular floor. So what you have is that one seam, like, you know, one unit, it's the same as that, except that the floor height is going to be different. So you're just making it more flexible for the group.
So do we designate walls as full height?
Typically we do, yes.
Draw a wall and say full height. It's reading the floor to underside.
That's correct. Yes, yes.
Or underside of the deck or whatever we're drawing.
That's correct.
So then if you change that floor to floor height, then it should automatically.
It automatically changes, yes.
And that should be the default unless otherwise.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Because it's only maybe in office buildings and stuff.
Right.
Stuff like that, we have shorter.
Right. But the only caveat out of that is what to do with if the client asking you to change floor to floor height. And the problem with Revit is that you have to change level one by one. And what happens is that if that level is attached to the underside and that level is off by, let's say, 2 inches or something, Revit will want to break the group and wants to disconnect it. So a lot of time people are asking, oh, how do you fix this issue? Because I already have towers that's already been done, but my client's asking us to move all the floor up by 2 inches. That's where you start to see a lot of this fault. So what I'm trying to illustrating is that if you want to have very flexible floor or very flexible unit, keep them unconnected so that you can change the floor to floor height regardless what the thing is doing. So I'm just trying to make sure that, because like several projects we did that, where we had to change the floor to floor height because lower level wasn't getting enough headroom, so we have to increase everything up by a foot, and then that affects a lot of our, you know, floor, like floor to floor. Just, it's one of those things. I'm pretty sure you guys probably will deal with this, right?
So when you adjust the floor, let's say you go down by 2 inches, right? And you went to the roof.
Yeah.
And then you add 2 inches to that, right?
Yes, you do that.
So the floor with a higher level difference,
Yes.
does that bounce back to the unconnected?
It does, yes. But the thing is that whatever this is attaching to, it just flex with it. Yes, that's right.
Editing the typical groups won't affect that.
It won't affect it, no. Yeah, experiment this a couple of times, and it seems to work pretty well. So if you do run into that kind of a scenario where you want the same group, the floor-to-floor height is different, make sure they are unconnected, and at the lower level, whatever's the highest, just connect to the other side, and then you're done.
So how does that affect then your, say, your curtain wall on the outside that's set to your slab?
Right.
Does that automatically do the same thing?
Typically what we do is that for the lower level, we just treat it separately, right? Because the curtain wall itself, when I built curtain wall, I always like to find whatever's the typical, and then whatever's the lower level, you have to treat it as a separate thing. So far, if you do that connecting, it just doesn't work. It wants to break, regardless of what you do. So there is no magic cure. What I mean by that is you can have the same principle, have this thing unconnected, okay, same height, and then you attach it to the underside. That's fine. The problem has to do with where you're placing the grid of your mullion. And what happens is that if this thing ever wants to lift height, and then if someone's at like some sort of a constraint, what tends to happen is that this will want to break away from this group, and it happens a lot because I think what happens is that when you have a dimension line from here to here, it's a constraint. Okay, Revit treats that as a constraint. What happens is that when this thing attached to the underside, it wants to break away from this group. So what we did in the curtain wall scenario is that you have to treat them both different levels. Okay, it's just a very quirkiness to it, differently than the other level. So if there's a repeating same level, then you can copy and just make it the same. But if the lower level is different height than the other, you have to treat that as a different. Whereas the unit itself, you don't have to, because unit you can just attach it to the underside, everything works fine. Yes.
We can copy a unit that's also already been attached to the underside.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. What happens is that he wants to unconnect it or unjoin because he wants to pick up the last level. So make sure when you copy the one that doesn't have anything connected, then it works. It's very quirky. Yeah, it's very quirky. It's one of those Revit things that's very quirky.
You have to weigh what are the different repercussions of doing that. Is it easier to maintain two different groups, or is it easier to deal with the attaching?
Yeah.
I find so much fun with attaching.
Yeah.
It's good and everything, but
Yeah, it will slow down your performance, right? Because anything that's attaching means that Revit has to take that into calculation, that every time the floor changes, it has to incorporate that, right? Every time when you edit a floor, it always gives you that message. Do you want to attach whatever object to the other side? Always say no, all right? I don't know why people say yes. The minute you say yes, you generate thousands of errors just out of that, right? Just people oh yeah, sure, make it automatic, but it's not as automatic as you think, okay? It's one of those things. We have to train people to not think of that like that. Any questions? No? All right.
one more question.
Sure.
Rails, guardrails. So, it varies every time, like the height of the guardrails at the bottom. How would you edit that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, guardrails are pretty, I would say, okay, typically if you want to have like a very good railing kind of a system, right? The one thing that I would do, this is for any project, all right? Let's say you have a railing. If you want to maintain height, the first thing I would typically like to do is that this last railing, you have to treat it as like, by code, it's like 1'11" or something. So offset, 1'11". Okay, and then offset, let's say this is 11 inches. And what I typically like to do is that you have to draw this thing separately. You draw that in. You draw that in. And then what you do is that you just delete the last line. Okay? And what that does is that it allows the transition to be a little bit better. Let's say this is your level, and you want to attach to the, let's say this height, to that height. Ooh, where's my line? Ah, come on. Yeah, let's say this is my line. See, 900. And then you do the same thing to the other side as well. So let's say, for example here, I'll add another 12 inches, yeah. just one line. So basically what you have is that treated this as like, if you have one line, means that that's a separation, that's like a sloping, and then there's another one, it's a separation. But if you want to make it so that it basically it's a flat surface, you could always define it by flat or slope. Okay? That's typically the general rule for when you do any Revit stair, is that, you know, I'll eliminate that, the background. Okay, so that's how you do Revit stair. I mean, if you've done it a couple of times, just follow this kind of a principle, and you can, it never fails you.
It fails me though.
Well, it depends on conditions, right?
That picket doesn't want
to
follow me.
Oh yeah, the pickets, yeah, sometimes it does. Okay, so how do you control this picket line? Let's say, for example, you have a 900 millimeter pipe, right? So let's say you want to change the density. So this is where you change it. So you could say that this is going to be 4 inches away, and then hit apply. And what I typically like to do is that I like to say truncated pattern. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do like something in the middle and then have like one baluster that goes all the way down, typically how I do it is that there's a trick to this. So what you do first is that you duplicate this, and the base, I like to change it to rail 1. Okay. And what you do is that you duplicate multiple times. Let's say I want 5 of that, and then one of them is going to be host. The minute you say hit apply, yeah, it's going to do that. Yeah, it's going to do that. That's fine. So what you could do is that you could say none and then truncate pattern. Okay, it does that. I don't know why it does that. So let's say I'm going to go spread to fit. Okay, if all else fail. Yeah, sometimes it does that. Okay, I have to double check why it fails. Oh, I see. Okay, top rail is 7. Sorry, I forgot. Or this is by host. Okay, let me redo it. Sorry, guys. So let's delete. Okay, good. Okay, BST now. Okay, go away. Okay, so first thing you want to do is that if you want to show like pickets in the middle, I would duplicate it. The base rail, I'm going to say it goes to rail 1, or you can say, okay, I'm going to go to host, and then the other one is going to be just the rail 1 and then rail 7. So let's say duplicate that. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it failed. Okay, the base, let me change that to 7. Change it to 7. And change that to 1. Let's see what it does. Beginning, truncated pattern. All right, it failed to me as well. Anyways, yeah, there's an example. Oh, there you go. You see why I should say this is top rail. Always label it properly. That's the mistake that a lot of people tend to make. Okay, that's why I always confuse, like what the heck is it, right? So the bottom rail, top rail, and what happened is that right now, you see that some of them are attaching to top rail, right? So you want that to be bottom rail, and then top one is going to be the top rail. Okay, let's see what it does. There you go. That's what it works. So label it properly, because every time when you say rail 1, rail 2, whatever, right, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know what it is. So if you know that there's a mill, always label it. Don't say rail 1, rail 2. That's what confuses me, because how I treat it is that rail 1 is going to be the top, and then the rail 7 is going to be the bottom, but it's completely opposite in this one. So if you have a label, then it makes it easier for you to know what it is. So if you want to add more, let's say, for example, you want to add like 5 pickets, then you can just say duplicate. And what happens is that it spreads out. So every time, what Revit does is that whenever there's the 5 pickets, then it will pick one that hosts it onto the floor. So that's how you manipulate some of the stuff. So you could get really complicated, you know, patterns going on inside Revit railing, right? So it's something you guys can actually experiment. But if you don't know, just don't bother. You can email me. I'll just help you fix it.
Okay. So how do you connect the
you
know, when you do the railing in a stair that goes, you know,
winding, yeah.
like the winding one? Yeah. How do you connect the flat rail?
Oh, okay.
Somebody always does it for me, so I
Oh, I see. Okay, so Alma's question is more to do with, let me do it here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, let's say, for example, you have a scenario where you have a stair that does this, but I have to have multiple levels. Let me double check. Okay, let's delete this. Maybe I should close out of this. No. All right, project 2. Okay, yeah, this is a perfect scenario, right? Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a scissor stair. I'm just gonna do a proper one. I'm just gonna reset this, and then copy this and paste it. So, paste select level. Let's say I'm gonna do it to all the floors. Okay, let's say you have a scissor stairs you want to put in, but I think what Alma was referring to, say I'm gonna go mirror this, except that it goes the other way. Okay, let's say that's your scissor stairs on level 2. Okay, now what Alma was referring to is that what happened when you have this transition point right here. I'll make sure that this thing is offset 6 inches. Yeah, let's say move this 6 inches. Okay, so let's say what happens there, right? So what you could do is that you can add a railing. Let's say I'm going to add a railing. Say I want to like add like a piece, like 4 inch. Let's say that, and then you just add it like that. Now, if you want to make them repeating up to the upper level, let's say you have one, let's see, where is it? Right there, correct? So what you have to do is that you kind of have to say pick host and pick this as a host. What happens is that you see that it basically hosts those multiple levels. So it has to be basically just do one rail and say pick that stair as a host. What it does is that it makes them repeating for the other one as well. That's all. That's a trick. Yeah.
But you gotta have that transition.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, the transition.
How's the transition when it goes down?
You're one riser above, so there is a transition.
Yes,
You have to
yes.
be vertical, it has to be continuous.
Yes, that's right.
You gotta choose where that transition is happening.
That's right. So this is why like I created a family. This thing works like perfectly. So if you like, I think I have a copy of it. If you guys want to use it, I experiment with this. This so far works the best. I don't have my railing here. Yeah. So let's see, where's my railing? No, it's just a railing itself. It's a railing. So what happens at this railing, again, is this is what it looks like. I'm going to go to my 3D. Yeah, maybe I should have this copy to everybody so that they know. But the only trick that they have to use for this, so far this works the best because when you transition, it does the corner and it does the gooseneck as well. So far, it's something I created. It's something I've created, and then it works wonder, and then it's been working since, so I haven't changed or updated.
Can I just copy
It's not, yeah, you can, it's a railing family, basically. So what it does is that it's a railing, right? I use railing for a lot of stuff, so yeah, so this is what it is. So the only trick you have to put in, right, is this thing has to be -2 3/4. Okay, it's that magic number. I don't know why, it just works. Because the thing is that if it's a magic number, like negative, what it does is that it basically attaches to this particular surface, okay? And when you cut a section, it basically, when you measure this gap, it's 1.5 or 2, whatever. Yeah, I think I did something. It's just a magic number. And I also have this inslap duct that you can use, right? If you have to do something like slab edges. It's all railing, yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the inslap duct. Yeah. So if you're doing inslap ducts within Revit, it's doable. Just use this. And then what you have is that you have an inslap duct. Yeah, and if you want to like some sort of you know, have one for the closet. So they're all railing basically. So you could. Yeah, the casework, the kitchen layout. I use the railing for it. Yeah, just you can use crazy stuff with railings, but you know, depends what you want. I think this is what you're talking about, the gooseneck kind of a thing, right? Yeah. So a lot of time, what I do is that I basically have this transition and then just say face it this way, so that the next piece, when they kind of join up, it kind of joins together.
So the other piece on the other side?
Yeah, I do, but it depends, like what scenario. You kind of have to kind of experiment. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, keep trying until you get it working. That's how you do it, right? Okay. But so far it works, so I have no problem with it. So
is that a railing end family, or is that?
Yeah, it's a railing. Yeah.
So can I see the sketch for that line?
Sure.
Oh, the line.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have that, and then I have the corner piece.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
just a, yeah.
What's the name of that railing then?
The railing name is railing with the spear end. I don't know why it's called spear end.
Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Try it again.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I just made it work and it worked. So I have no clue. So a lot of time it's that railing is one of those really funny things. So you kind of have to experiment and make sure it works, right? So far that magic number 2 3/8 works well because it offset from the wall, and then yeah. So that's the only trick. So if you ever copy one of the families in there, yeah, just use it.
Where's that?
This is Aviara, so you guys.
Can you put on the ends there? If you're drawing a 90-degree angle in a handrail, you're getting miter type, very sharp corners.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the other way to do it, like we do in schools, we don't do that because it's dangerous. So we do, there's a standard 3-inch radius type corner.
Right. You could do the same thing in here. So what you do is that, let's say you have this kind of scenario where you have to do that, right? So what I do is that when you go edit that railing, all you have to do is that within that railing, where's my line? Yeah, let's do it in the plan. Okay. It's one of those railing. Okay, so in here, what you can do is that you see that there's a corner, a fillet arc. You can say that radius is 3 inches. So what you can do is that just draw it in like that. And there we go. But this one is kind of like, it's more than that, so.
3-inch outside.
Yeah, so you could just do that. Yeah, you can do that. Just basically form it, that's it. The railing is not that.
Because if you want that, it needs to go in on the drawing, because I've had nothing but fights when it comes back from the guys tendered on this thing, and they submit their shop drawing,
Right.
to show the right angle, so they pointy stuff all over the place, and they say, well, your drawing didn't show.
Right, yeah.
So it's constantly marking. Can you model one corner?
Yeah, okay, let's go back. I don't want to mess this up because this is already under construction, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you want, you can say, okay, make sure, okay, since this is 4 inches, right? So you can say railing. Yeah, railing, let's say 3 inches, I think. Right, so you have that kind of pointy corner. And then that way updates and all. There you go. Yeah, so you can do like a lot of the weird stuff with railing, so it is doable. It's just that user just have to kind of add that piece in there. So it's up to the user where they have to understand this limitation. Like there's a limitation in Revit is that they make it all pointy, but it's the user that has to kind of do this detail themselves, and Revit cannot just do everything for them. Okay? Because I know that a lot of time people just rely on Revit saying that Revit can do this and Revit can do that, but they don't go in there and then add that detail. And that's where a lot of time mistakes are made because they're not aware of this little intricate details.
Did you put the nosing? Is there a nosing there?
Yeah, okay, so in here, this is like whatever is the default. I know that sometimes people say, oh, can I make a monolith stair? You can change this maximum riser. You can say non-monolithic. You can change, see if I can change the type. Oh yeah, you can change it to monolith. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, if it's a monolithic, it's monolithic. Okay, so it is what it is. Come and join us. Yeah, it's almost.
Can you specify where the guardrail is going? Oftentimes,
Yes.
the guardrail may be a certain stairs mounted to the side of the stairs.
Right. Yeah, you can say anything. So I think this is what the offset's supposed to be right here. So if you want to say go 2 inch in, you see that it basically offset them inward. You could do the opposite. You want to say, you know, -2 or, you know, -1. Yeah. I like the negative, and then this one you can flip it. So I always say this one goes to the outside and the other one goes to the inside, kind of a thing. So it has an orientation.
Those arrows,
Yes.
it means goes inside if it's pointing that. Okay.
That's right. But it depends on how to make up the railing, right? Because if the railing has this condition where I had the other one, that's why it's negative, because it has to go to the outside. Yeah, that's the reason behind it. Okay, because if you go positive, then the...
But I have it still shows correctly on plan, though.
It's show correct on plan, but 3D doesn't show correctly, so I have to flip it, right? So, all right, that's pretty much what I'm going to cover for 2 hours, unless you guys have a last-minute thought. I mean, I thought I think everybody's going to come in and have donuts and, yeah, party. I guess I have to come back and... No, I have to come back. I have to go for an appointment, and I have to come back, and then I have to clean up my stuff. Finish my BFT. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, site plan. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's going to people.
All right. I know that site plan is always the hardest thing inside Revit, okay? Because site plan always has a lot of intricate, very, very detailed intricacy, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to just show you how to, like, basically create, like, you know, I show the other groups how to get data, right? Because the thing is that we do not want to rely on Google SketchUp. Because every time when people do SketchUp model, they get Google Maps, and what happens is that the accuracy is not accurate. So the proper way that everybody should be doing is that you need to access the city open data map, okay? First, you click on the urban design, you know, that panel, and then just click on the city open data. And then here I have like a city of Vancouver, but later on they're gonna map this to somewhere where they have like a lot of other cities as well. And what happened is that you have to kind of like, you know, do the COV combine, right? The COV combine has basically, I downloaded from the city of Vancouver, and they have all this data, basically of all the city of Vancouver, with all the points, everything. The accuracy is very accurate. Like I would say 90% is accurate. So this is like full city, right? So let's say you're doing a building somewhere in, you know. Anyways,
how does the accuracy, how does it compare to Ben Maps, like your info?
This is actually gathered from Ben Maps.
Okay, so
because the city uses this. This is the actual data itself. Ben Map is actually just it's a snapshot of this, but you're getting a PDF version, right? Because the problem with a lot of times is that people like to trace stuff. People like to trace. And the tracing is what kills us most of the time because it's not accurate. So when you get this open data, you can click on like, let's say Vancouver open data. And what they have is that they have a lot of the stuff in there. There's even like LiDAR as well. If you don't know what LiDAR, it basically is a point clouds of all the scan of the city. So you're getting a building out of that. But the problem is that this data is huge. We're talking about gigabytes on potted gigabytes. So you have to make sure you know how to process that data and put it accurately. Someone can actually use this, but I would just say right now, reading it, it's pretty intense. So I would not recommend people doing it. unless they have a way to kind of interpret that data. So most of the time, for a site plan, what we have is that, let's say, assuming that this is your site near BC Place somewhere, right? The first thing I would do is I just draw like a circle. Okay, that depicts where the region of the area you want to put in. And then this is where, okay, I'm going to start a drawing. The only thing that you need to know is that when you set units, make sure you set it to meters. Okay, that's the first thing you want to do. And when you go to COV Combine, the first thing you want to do is that you want to copy this information, the circle that you say, this is my site. The bigger the site, the more information it will process, right? But it really depends. If you are doing shadow study, your map should be twice as big as your site, like right here, okay? Because a lot of time when you do shadow study, like 20-story building, it could reach really far, okay? Something to think about, because a lot of time people only show this portion, and then that shadow study just goes somewhere there, but you're not sure if it's correct. And half the time, you don't have that point cloud data, right, to represent where the site's supposed to be. Because sometimes what happens is that you have a dip and valley within your site you don't even know, okay? Google Maps not going to tell you. So this is why we recommend that if you want to go with this method, this is the way to go. And Revit will actually read this data if you tell it like which region you want to go and say, okay, I want to like this small city. So the next thing you want to do is that you want to click on this, okay? You go edit, copy a base point, and go 0, 0. And what happens is that you can delete it and open up that point cloud data and say open that extract. Okay? Since this data is so big, Revit just would take forever to process this. So I would not recommend putting it inside Revit and process everything. So what we typically recommend doing is that in AutoCAD side is just pick and choose the area you want to put in. So what you do is that you go pasting coordinates. Okay, so this is the area. And what you're going to do is that you're going to choose those points where you want it. Let's say that's my area. You go edit, copy, 0, 0. And when you go to back into the drawing one, edit, paste it in. And what it does is that when you paste, this is where it is, right? And then the next thing you want to do is that you want to copy this again. Okay. As you know, City of Vancouver is using the UTM, right? Whatever that geo-coordinate system. They have a tie-in with different I guess it's ArcGIS software. The next thing you want to do is that you want to open up this property line, which is the purple one, okay? And what you do is that you just go open extract. Okay, and now what you do is that this is like a City of Vancouver map. They're pretty accurate, okay? So all the VAM map, everything, this is what's been translated, but this is more accurate. And the next thing you want to do is that just pick the area you want, okay? And then go edit, copy base point, and then say 0, 0. And then the next thing you do is that go back to drawing one, and then you go edit, paste coordinate. Okay? So let's say this is your building, and the first thing you do is that you save it as something, right? I'm going to put in like my document, say open data. Okay? And the next thing I would do is that I would do one for Revit as well. Okay? Because Revit itself doesn't like the UTM coordinates because they're like miles and miles away. So what they like to do is that you have to move this site closer to 0, 0. So what I typically do is that I pick a point where, you know, this is 0, 0. That's my starting point, and make that as the coordinates. The reason why I keep one original and then one open data is that next time when you want to move that thing again and recalibrate the data, you can do the same thing. Just use the same step. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this. Okay, I got 2 of them. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Move all. And I'm going to move this closer to 0, 0. And then I'm going to go save as. And then I'm going to call this Revit. Okay. Now, once this is set, the next thing you want to do is that you want to extract those points because this point has the 3D data in it. Okay, when you click on this, you see that it has a meter, it has the data in it. So the next thing you want to do is that you go to this little guy right here. Okay, that looks like a trapezoid with the ruler in it. You want to do the point extraction manager right there. You click on that. The first thing you want to do is that you want to pick the points, and in the output, you want to put a file. Okay. Next, you want to go to Browse and choose the CSV file. Okay, Revit will read the CSV. And then when you go Save and hit OK, so what happens is that all the points are calculated right there. When you go back into the Revit side of things, okay, the next thing you want to do is that when you create a site, massing a site, topo surface, next thing you want to do is that you want to go and specify points. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my documents, okay. You see that there's a CSV file, and when you hit open, choose the meters, okay, and then hit OK, and Revit will do a topography based on that, okay. There's a topography. Now, if you want to bring in, let's say, your site itself, okay, let's do 0, 0. Next thing you want to do is that you want to go Insert, Cad Link, and I would just say Current View, Origin to Origin, Preserve, sure, why not, and then make sure this is check off. And what you do in here is that you click on the Revit side. Okay, it's in there, but you kind of have to force it to come up at the foreground. Okay, so this is pretty accurate. And then now what you can do is that you can just go to Massing and Site, go to Property Line, okay, Sketching. So what I typically like to do is that I just basically pick this, okay, so this, and then go Finished. Okay, that's the property line, yes. That's the actual property line provided by the city, okay? So this is why I want people to kind of start using this, because this is very important when you're starting to do feasibility studies or anything related to this. And that 0, oh, Lucienne, come in, have the donuts. And so once you have in this particular, then you can start building your buildings, whatever you want out of this. So you have a starting point for a site, and then, you know, pretty much everything is set up.
You took one corner and set that as the 0, 0.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it's pretty quick. Like, you can get it, but it's just that I think it's just some users are not understanding how this works. But more and more, the city open data is constantly updating their data every 3 weeks or something. So you're always constantly getting new data.
And when you get a topographical, a survey from a surveyor, you plug that in to ensure that the data is
that's correct.
saying what the city has?
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Typically, they're pretty accurate. They're pretty good, because the surveyor will just do like really close to the site, so you get more and more data being put in there, and it becomes it's like another layer kind of a thing. Because in here, you only get like every 12 meters interval. So as like surveyor calculate all these things, the more accurate your site's going to be. So.
Remember that, Dan? Like the very first project we did in Revit was years and years ago. Daniel inherited it after the first guy set it up. He had used the original UTM coordinates, which were 1,000 miles away or something, and it just was a nightmare.
So yeah, so so this is how you basically grab the site and all that stuff. So the next thing is that if you want to make the site kind of oriented to the way it was, then you go into this particular one. Let's say Manage, and then there is the position, Rotate Project North, and then Align to select a type, and then I'm just going to pick this line as my kind of a thing. So what it does is that it rotates all the things, right? So what you have is that you have your Project North, and you have a True North. Okay, the True North is what you use for, let's say, you know, if you're doing like a shadow study, that's what you use. Project North is your Project North, right? So you want to orient your building.
Do you find that better than rotating the site to be horizontal to what we want and then rotating True North?
I I like that better.
Prefer that one.
Yeah, I like that better, but this is kind of like a quick kind of a thing, right? Where, you know, when you do a feasibility study, this is how it's done. But the thing is that I would typically do it inside AutoCAD and rotate that thing first before you attempt doing anything. So what I'm
ensure that you draw a north line.
yeah. So what I typically do is that I like to do this. Like I just draw in like ortho, right? Just do that, and then just do like a 4 written first, and then do that. Okay. And then when I do a line, so I'll just do a line. AutoCAD has a command called align. So L, that's what it is. It does. And then just all you have to do is just say all. The first point you're going to say at that point. Second point, I'm going to pick this particular one and match it to this point. And then when you enter, your north arrow is going to be there. And then when you import this into Revit, this is your project north. Okay? So it's one step inside AutoCAD. Okay? Because I know that this is a step that user tends to don't do. They just insert in the true north. And what you're starting out with is the true north. Something to keep in mind. I think this is a way better way just to make sure that user just know what kind of a trick.
Can you select the frequency of the contour?
You can.
Is that a built-in?
Okay, so Peter is asking, can you do this? The first thing you want to do is that if you want to control that, there is one called Masking in Sight, and you click on this, right? Here, there's the increments. So you can say intervals. You can say, I want it as dense as 1 feet. Oh, actually, it's not doing, sorry. Increment 1 feet, or they can say 1 inches. Okay, let's say I'm going to do that. Okay, so you can control that. You can make it like 10 feet.
Now, you said it as metric before, and then you're setting feet. Is the program intelligent enough to...
It will recognize both units. So
in
the same drawing, yes. So this is why, why there's some advantage to this, because you can mix units. You can mix millimeters with meters, meters with millimeters, any unit. As long as you define it, then that's fine.
In AutoCAD procedure, that's the good first. It's best to stick to
metric, yeah.
Meters, because that's the survey unit. Once into Revit, then Revit can figure it out.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think a lot of the feasibility studies are going to go to this phase, but the unfortunate thing is that a lot of the office doesn't know this sort of
the guys who were doing the feasibility studies aren't Revit guys. The vector was...
Yeah, but the thing is that this is how you gather data, right? So when you have a data and you have something that can be used for multiple purposes, this is perfect. And then, you'll have one source of data that, everybody can use, everybody can gather that data, and then that's pretty much it.
Is this open data street information in there?
It does, but the thing is that would I trust it? I don't know, because the thing is that it keeps changing. Last time